Hey, I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of the AWM NFL podcast. My name is Riccardo Stewart, and I'm your host, and I'm joined with the mayor, Sam Acho, the professor, Jeff Locke, and then the truth, Zach Miller. We were talking about some different things on the podcast the last couple of weeks, but I thought given the climate and where we're at in terms of quote unquote, the market, I thought we'd just take a little side just to discuss kind of what's happening and maybe ask some questions to answer for our listeners, for our clients about what the heck is going on in the market. And so let me start here. One of the things that Bill Belichick did as a coach I thought was great is really highlight the ideal of situational football. Now, that was going on before Bill Belichick, but he really highlighted. And situational football, in short, is the unique challenges that come up in a game to particular situations, and how do you prepare a team? So down and distance, what time of the game is it? Is it the end of the game? It's at the end of the half. And the unique challenges you need to be prepared for. And I thought when it comes to the market, is it situational investment? Or given that we're, just finished March Madness, is it more like basketball where every basketball coach knows there's going to be runs? And some team's going to have a run and you got to withstand it and then you'll get yours, or which one is it? And so I want to be able to talk to you guys about the situation that we find ourselves in. And so the professor, Jeff, just if we can take a step back, and I'll ask you just in general, what's happening in the market of recent? And I should say this because we're recording this on April 8th, 2025, and things could change by the time that this gets published. But yeah, Jeff, what's going on?
Yeah, I appreciate the date stamp there, so I'm not called out later on this. But as of now, since the beginning of the year, across the globe, stocks are down about 10%, a little bit more. In the U.S., it's even more. We're talking 13, 14% stocks being down. So if you're reading the headlines, you've seen stuff on social media, a lot of people saying a lot of things about what is going on in the stock market. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but what makes our clients unique in this circumstance is that you might be fully insulated from this in a way, right? You might be in a spot where you have cash to deploy, you have cash to invest, and it's actually a good time to be investing in stocks, right? Really depending on what your plan says, but we'll dig more into that. But overall, markets are down. People are scared.
Yeah, I mean, it's in this particular day, it's hard to look at your social media, the turn on the screen and so forth, and not hear a lot of noise. Mayor, the man of the people, as you're interacting, at ESPN, as you're talking to the NFL players, as you're talking to our clients, what are some of the questions, concerns, or thoughts that you hear?
The biggest thing I hear is that the little things still matter. What do I mean by that? I was talking to a NFL player, multi-million-dollar guy, high draft pick, et cetera. And I was just sharing with him how there's a client of ours who plays with a team in LA. And based off some tax stuff that the team missed, we actually ended up saving that client over $80,000. And so I ran into this other guy who's a teammate of his, and I shared with him, hey, man, mind you, this guy's like I said, high draft pick, whatever. I was like, hey, man, you might want to look into that because that's a thing that would actually be a big time benefit to you. And you would think based off all the money he made, he'd be like, oh, no, I'm good. He was like, no, dude, let me know what the information, send me all the things you can send me because I don't want to miss out on that, whatever that amount might be for him. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. And so for me, what stood out was that it doesn't matter how much people are making right now. There's still a sensitivity to money that is leaking out of their pockets, either intentionally or maybe unintentionally that they don't know about.
Well, we talk about this situation, Zach, and situational football, situational investment. I just wonder in terms of today and now, and I know you're talking to a lot of our clients and you're usually the person on the team that everybody calls, is what do I do if I'm a current NFL player? Like my age, my income, so forth.
So I can't emphasize this enough. You got to stick to your plan. You don't get midway through the game, have some adversity, and just rip up and just create a new game plan. If you're well diversified, if your team you work with has planned for these events like we do here, you're already set up to take advantage of this. So one of my biggest pieces of advice is as an NFL player, you have the opportunity to keep earning great income and put that money to work So down markets are an opportunity for you. Every transaction in the market, every time you see those big down days, there's a buyer for every seller. So if you're that buyer, you're coming in and scooping up deals at discounts on great investments that have always in the past recovered. Markets have always recovered. So yes, every crisis is going to feel different. You're going to feel a new reason to want to sell, a new reason to panic. But when you have a strong hand like every NFL player does with that kind of income, you should feel good about buying. You should feel good about putting money to work. You shouldn't shy away from the markets. Your advisor should educate you and keep you informed as much as possible. And for a long-term investor, those short-term market moves, they just don't matter in the grand scheme of things. You're not planning to sell for decades. As a long-term investor, which we recommend everyone be a long-term investor, all you do as a short-term investor, a short-term trader, is get eaten up by capital gains and missing out on market returns. And so staying a long-term investor during these times, and that's with the caveat that you're diversified, that you own thousands of companies that all are going to navigate tariffs. They'll navigate the next crisis. They will navigate them. It doesn't look good in the short term, but they will come out ahead and they will provide those returns as they have in the past. There's no guarantees, but that's what markets have done in the past. So you can bank on that. You can bank on your financial plan, assuming your team has built out a protective reserve, assuming they have built out that strategy with cash flow so that you can smartly put money to work when markets do what they're doing now.
It's good. Like, Sam, I'm gonna put you on the spot. As you hear Zach talk and you hear him answer the question, what sort of things come to your mind as it relates to the men and women who you've been talking to and listening from?
The biggest thing that comes to my mind is to see this as an opportunity. What do I mean by that? I remember I got drafted in 2011, and that was right after the financial crisis of 08 and 09. And I remember I didn't see that as an opportunity. I instead was afraid. Y'all heard the story about Giannis, who said, okay, I have all this money and there's FDI insurance at banks, so I'm going to put my money at all these different banks so it can kind of be insured. It's like there's better ways to actually think through crises. And I think one of the ways is almost like Zach saying, is thinking not just for the next 5 years, but think for the next 50 years, not just the next 5 minutes, but the next, like 5, 10, 15, 20 years, thinking long-term. I think as I go back to it now, when I made the NFL and walked into a large sum of money, that would have been a great opportunity after that crisis to invest. But I didn't. I made a mistake. I took the Giannis approach. It's like, okay, how do I keep my money as safe as possible? So if you have people who you trust, which is hard, I get it, but people you trust who actually understand what the markets have done in the past, and at least can give you a basic understanding of, okay, what may happen. No one knows the future, but what may happen or what has happened, that'll give you a better understanding of the opportunity that's at hand rather than walking in fear.
Professor, why don't you wrap it up for us? 2 things I'd like you to give our listeners, NFL players, 2 things to consider when we see markets do what they're doing right now, and maybe 1 thing not to do.
Love it. I think first thing to consider is, how does this impact my plan, right? Point blank. Has my plan changed? Have my priorities changed? Has something changed with my family situation? Do I want to do something different with my money in the future? None of that's changed. If your plan is built right, this doesn't impact you in the slightest, right? Second, stock market corrections are a feature of the market, not a flaw, right? The reason that you earn money in the stock market is because there is such a potential to lose money if you don't hold it together when the markets are down. That's why you earn, is by having your behavior in check during these times when others don't. That's why you earn more than them, right? Thing not to do, piggyback on that, is to act rashly out of emotion when you see a headline, right? Think about who those headlines are for, right? And what those headlines are meant to do. They're meant to drive clicks and earn ad revenue, right? It's not actual specific advice for you and your situation. So take a breath, That's what we all got to do in these situations and stick to the plan.
I love it. I love it. I guess one of the ways to just wrap all that together is we started off with situational football. We know some of the best leaders, whether they be point guards, quarterbacks, receivers, DNs, in those situations where the game was on the line. The people who you look forward to or you look to for leadership are those with the non-anxious presence. And so the one thing we would say to wrap it all up is have a non-anxious presence, trust in your plan, trust in the team that you've hired, and continue to ask questions. If there's anything we said today that you have questions on or you want to know what does it mean to even have a plan, please reach out to us. You can text us at 602-989-5022.
This has been a production of AWM Capital, the Athlete Family Office. Reach out to the team at athletefamilyoffice.com or by calling or texting 602-989-5022. All opinions expressed by the hosts are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of AWM Capital. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon in any manner as professional advice or an endorsement of any practices, products, or services. There can be no guarantees or assurances that the views expressed here will be applicable to any particular facts or circumstances and should not be relied upon in any manner. You should consult your own advisors as to legal, business, tax, and other related matters concerning any investment. Clients and employees of AWM Capital may maintain positions in the securities or companies discussed in this podcast.